Magic, noun. The power of apparently influencing events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Adjective, having or apparently having supernatural powers. Supernatural, adjective, of a manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. In a conventional science fiction story, the world is presented as being scientifically logical, while a conventional fantasy story contains mostly supernatural and artistic elements that disregard the scientific laws of the real world. The world of science fantasy, however, is laid out to be scientifically logical and often supplied with hard science-like explanations of any supernatural elements. In the novel Shadow of the Conqueror, there is a character who gains magical powers when he falls through the bottom of the world holding a dark stone and a sunstone, to oversimplify it. He then figures out how to use his new powers incredibly quickly, and is described in such a way that it really takes you out of it being a hard fantasy novel. What in Light's End? Dalen said, trying to understand what had just happened. He was moving fast now, very fast, but why had the initial increase in mass slowed him and the decrease in mass given him a momentary burst of speed? Maybe increasing his mass was like trying to pick up a boulder from the ground while running past it. If his momentum wasn't enough to overcome his new mass's stationary inertia, he would be brought to a standstill before gravity accelerated him. That's it, Dalen said in realization. The new mass has no kinetic energy, and now because Dalen had far greater mass, it took more wind resistance to level out his acceleration from gravity, meaning his terminal velocity was much higher and he fell faster than before. Now, tell me the truth, didn't that sound like something out of a boring physics textbook rather than an exciting fantasy novel? Shadow of the Conqueror is a hard fantasy novel. Hard fantasy being when an author applies logic and rules to magical systems and explains how it affects the way the world works. For example, I came up with a fantasy world based in a medieval type setting where certain people, after eating the heart of an animal, can then turn into that animal. This has big implications on how my fantasy world works. Just like in A Song of Ice and Fire, birds are used to carry messages, but the birds in my world are actually people who ate a bird heart and can then turn into a bird, explaining how they're smart enough to know where to go and to survive the journey by not getting taken out by birds of prey or archers. For the transportation of, say, bags of mail, instead of a horse and rider, you just have a person who can turn into a horse, get loaded up with the mail, and then gallop from town to town delivering it. No rider necessary unless the horse person needs protection. This is the nature of hard fantasy. The rules of the magic system are clearly explained and then follow through to their logical conclusion. The thing is though, the level of what you explain about your magic system is what can leave it either in the realms of hard fantasy or can shift it over into being more science fantasy. Just as all I say about the mechanics of how some people in my fantasy world can turn into animals is just that they eat the heart of an animal, Shadow of the Conqueror only tells us Dalen passing through the bottom of the world holding a dark stone and sunstone somehow gives him powers. Both explanations are still squarely in the realms of fantasy. If I was to then go the route of how Dalen figures out how to use his powers using scientific terms, that the mass of the animal the person turns into is proportional to the mass of the person's body, etc, etc, that isn't just fantasy to me anymore. We're now in the genre of science fantasy. Why do you think people were so mad when midichlorians were introduced into Star Wars? The Force before the Phantom Menace, an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. So a magical element with a nebulous explanation. Interesting. The Force after the Phantom Menace. Midichlorians are a microscopic life form that reside within all living cells that communicate with the Force. A magical element with a scientific explanation. Boring. Remember the definitions I read out at the start of the video? Magic, noun. The power of apparently influencing events by using mysterious or supernatural forces. Adjective, having or apparently having supernatural powers. Supernatural, adjective, of a manifestation or event attributed to some force beyond scientific understanding or the laws of nature. To me, for magic to be fantasy, it should be mysterious and supernatural, and thus beyond scientific understanding and the laws of nature. And the demagicifying doesn't stop with just magic systems. The design of modern day dragons has been changed to make them more scientifically plausible compared to their ancient depictions. 4 legs and wings? I don't think so. They'd probably be more like pterosaurs, so let's get rid of those 2 front legs, shall we? Then, let's decrease the size of their bodies and / or increase the size of their wings so that they adhere to the laws of physics and be able to actually fly. There's no way we're going to let them breathe fire magically, so let's have it so that they have 2 glands in their mouths which secrete separate chemicals that combine in exhalation. Smaug lives under the Lonely Mountain for decades without eating or drinking. Maybe he was leaving the mountain and just no one saw him. Or maybe he was getting offerings from the people of Lake Town like Vermithrax Pejorative was from the people of Erland in the movie Dragon Slayer. Or you know what? Maybe it's because Smaug is a dragon. a magical creature. Maybe he can eat it but doesn't need to because he's magical, and this is fantasy. And it isn't just dragons that have had the magic taken out of them. Vampires and werewolves created by a deal with the devil, a witch's curse, a ritual sacrifice. Well, in the underworld movies, it's more like a virus. Marcus and William bitten by a bat and a wolf and mutating into the first ever vampire and werewolf and then spreading that virus via biting. And I would say that essentially makes them zombies, but even zombies have been demagicified because the original zombie was from Haitian folklore and was created most commonly through the use of voodoo magic, not a mutated strain of rabies. Even the zombies in Romero's Night of the Living Dead were apparently created through scientific means, radiation from a probe arriving back from Venus and exploding in the atmosphere. Why couldn't it have been magic though? Or let us to the viewer's imagination at least. To make something believable, it doesn't need to have an explanation based in science and the laws of nature. It can be mysterious and supernatural and still be believable. I mean, look at all the people who believe in God and ghosts. I want dwarves with liquid metal running through their veins instead of blood with no scientific explanation as to how that can be possible because it's magic and fantasy. I want elves being able to walk on snow without leaving footprints with no scientific explanation as to how that can be possible because it's magic and fantasy. I want to be able to throw fireballs, shoot lightning, and summon otherworldly spirits with no scientific explanation of how that can be possible because it's magic and fantasy. Why can't we just let magic be magical anymore? Seriously. Thank you all subs for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of when I upload new videos, and show your support for the channel by liking and sharing this video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.